In the spring of 1789, the newly formed United States of America stood at the edge of history. The Revolutionary War had ended 6 years earlier, but the young nation was still fragile, uncertain, and in need of strong leadership. The Articles of Confederation had failed to unite the states effectively, and now, under the new Constitution ratified in 1788, the country was preparing to choose its first president. There was only one man the people trusted above all others: George Washington, the hero of the American Revolution, known for his courage, integrity, and humility, had already led the Continental Army to victory against the British. Yet, after the war, Washington had retired to his plantation at Mount Vernon, hoping to live quietly. But the nation called him back once again. In February 1789, the Electoral College met. Every elector cast his vote for Washington, a unanimous decision that had never happened before and has never happened again. It was clear George Washington would become the first president of the United States. When the news reached Mount Vernon, Washington humbly accepted, writing that he felt as if walking on untrodden ground. The weight of responsibility was heavy on his shoulders. In April 1789, Washington began his journey from Mount Vernon to New York City, the temporary capital of the United States. The trip covered nearly 250 miles and took more than a week. Along the way, crowds filled the roads, cheering, waving flags, and singing songs of celebration. Bells rang in every town, and people decorated the streets with flowers and banners. Washington, dressed in his finest uniform, waved modestly, deeply moved by the love of his countrymen. On April 23rd, he reached New York City, crossing the Hudson River on a grand barge decked with red, white, and blue. Cannons fired in salute, church bells rang, the city erupted with joy. Washington, now 57 years old, was about to take on one of the most important roles in human history, to define what it meant to be a president. The inauguration was scheduled for April 30th, 1789, at Federal Hall. Crowds gathered early, filling the streets and rooftops. Washington stood tall, wearing a simple brown suit and white stockings, showing humility rather than grandeur. This was not the coronation of a king. It was the birth of a democracy. At noon, Washington stepped onto the balcony of Federal Hall. Beside him stood Chancellor Robert Livingston of New York. The Bible was placed on a red cushion, open to a random page. Washington placed his right hand on it and repeated the oath of office written in the Constitution. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. When he finished, Livingston raised his hand and declared, "Long live George Washington, President of the United States." The crowd roared with joy, cannons fired, and church bells rang across the city. After the ceremony, Washington entered the Senate chamber and gave his inaugural address, short, humble, and heartfelt. He spoke of his fears and hopes for the new nation and asked for divine guidance to govern wisely. His words set a tone of humility and service that would define the presidency for generations to come. That evening, fireworks lit up the sky. America had its first president, not a king or a ruler by birth, but a leader chosen by the people. George Washington's presidency marked the beginning of a new era, one founded on freedom, unity, and the belief that power rests with the people.